Go until you okay, you are live.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the last day of this stupendously successful Drive East Festival. I am Pratibha Natesan Batley. I am from Good morning, everybody. Texas. Welcome to the last day of this. Sorry, I'm having some feedback. So I'm the representative from Texas, from Earcom Dance Company. This has been a truly mammoth of a project spanning across the globe with many people working behind the scenes tirelessly. And thanks to everybody who has supported us, who has been with us through this journey, all the artists, all the volunteers, and the staff who have been part of this journey. So I have here with me Sahasra, Sambamoorthi, and Sridhar Shanmugam. They are the co-directors of Navatman, which is based in New York. So I'm going to let you guys introduce yourselves and also field my first question about how was it going online completely, because that's not what was on the books when we first started thinking about Drive East or planning Drive East for 2020. So how was the journey? Tell us everything about it.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. So I had started Navatman with Sridhar 12 years ago, 10 years ago now, something like that. And essentially it was started out as a production branch primarily. We had gotten a space in Manhattan, and Sridhar sort of transformed it into a black box theater, and we started producing shows then, and then it quickly started developing other branches, a school, dance company, music collective, and now we have like a little blog journal going and things like that. So it's essentially an umbrella institute that covers many bases that we hope all support the Indian classical arts moving forward, or Indian arts, wherever it shifts and changes as the years go by. I can talk about maybe online after Sridhar introduces himself.
Yeah, I'm Sridhar Shanmugam, very passionate about Indian arts, placing Indian arts art form the wall pedestal. I think it's 13 years since Sahi and I met, and since then it's been a sort of a wonderful journey where we're trying to do so many wonderful projects. And one of our pet projects is, of course, Drive East. Successfully, we've completed 9 years, and still on the journey, exciting, passionate, with lots of beautiful strides, finding new avenues to make the the festival more successful. That's where we are. And of course, it's not just the two of us, but we have a wonderful team with us, and it's like a constant sizzling of energy which keeps happening day in and day out. But of course, Sahi leads the whole stuff with putting 36 hours a day. So we have a wing.
And shifting online was sort of a no-brainer for us in some ways. Like I think we had maybe 20-minute discussion on it where we're like, well, if we're gonna do it, it has to be equivalent to the live experience or take it to the next level, which is why we invested so much in finding someone who could do justice to that. So finding the team that we partnered this year, which was Abe Tech, led by Parth Patel, but also the equipment and broadcasting from 8 cities versus, or 7 cities versus just having it. Usually people come to us. This time we went to them, so to speak, including bringing the theater to your home, I would hope and feel, as we move forward. But turning online was sort of a natural decision because there was literally no other decision to be made. You could have done discussions, but it wasn't the theater, and we wanted dance and music, and so it wasn't I think for us it was not a difficult moment of time before we were just like, all right, what has to be done to get Drive East going.
Wow, that is interesting. It's interesting that, it was a no-brainer going online. Whereas, people would think, oh, I can listen to YouTube videos whenever I want. So what made it, how did you make the decision, and what was the decision to make this a unique experience, and how has that been received by the audiences?
Oh, I'll take this one too. Okay. So I think a lot of that was our theorizing as a team. We sat down and we're like, well, we knew that there was a lot going on Facebook and Instagram already. And we have also a series called At Home With and Black Box by Tux, which we kind of immediately offered the transition to. But even those you had to donate something to see the links. We didn't know what that medium was going to be like. And it had its own difficulties in terms of internet and things like that, but it was successful right off the bat. And so that indicated to us, okay, there are people who want this content, who are willing to pay for it. It's not that it has to be free. And then we sat down and we're like, well, what's the theater experience? What's the point of going to the theater? Because I can watch any of these artists online, but going to the theater is a moment of time, right? You've bought a ticket, you've prepared yourself for the day, you dressed up, maybe you're meeting friends. And so we wanted to encapsulate the experience of, I am setting aside time to go see something at home the same way you would do to the theater. That's part of what makes it special. The other part is the connection with other people, which was much harder to provide this year for Drive East, but we tried to do it by creating VIP sessions. We know a lot of what the feedback from audiences before was they love the community, so we wanted interactions with us to speak truly to that. And so far the feedback has been really good. As expected, when you put out something new for the first time, you have like this sudden, oh my God, what are you doing? It's crazy. But after the first few days of that, we can see now the feedback we've been getting has been tremendous. And like most things at Navatman, or I think Indian dance and music related in general, if you can get people through the doors, people are like, wow, I never saw something like that. I appreciate it in a way I never have before. So overall, I would say the feedback has been really, really wonderful. And anything that we're getting has to do with things that we can fix for next year, nothing to do with the product in general. So it's been supremely successful, I would say. I don't know, Sridhar, you guys would have to tell me. I'm on this end.
Absolutely, because so far around the world, I have artists who I've known for 30 years, 40 years, my connection in Chennai, Delhi, and all this, Bombay. So what happened was, all of a sudden now, I get calls from these fellow artists from around the world to say, oh, wow, I didn't know you're doing this. It's cool, it's so nice. And these discussions, this reconnecting with the artists, and they feel dignified. That's exactly, it's not like I'm doing a show from my living room, but it feels so dignified when I watch this concert presented in this, on virtually, but still with such amount of care taken. So, that really, I felt very special because though it was a no-brainer, but to find the right person and to find the right team and to put things together was a sort of a thing which the team worked on. And it proved, friends from Malaysia, friends from Australia, calling and saying it was fabulous. So I'm, it's something translating in what we keep saying is about, the precision, the quality, the dignity, and the passion of arts just presented there.
I really love how Sridhar put that. I didn't think of it that way, but to present arts with dignity, I feel like has been maybe something we've all been looking for the last couple of months. And I definitely feel like we did that, and I feel like the artists felt that as well. But again, gotta ask them. I'm,
I mean, to me, I mean, of course, I've been part of this, part of the organizing team, but I've also been a consumer of the product, right? So, and I've been, I mean, I'm in the field of Bharatanatyam, so I've been seeing a lot of Insta lives, and nothing wrong with going live from your living room. I mean, it's great. It's another way to reach the audience, and that in that way, COVID has opened up a lot of possibilities that we would have never thought about before. But at the same time, to be amidst all of this, to watch something so professionally done in a theater setting with high quality sound, high quality video, multiple angles, and all of that was definitely a treat for me in that aspect. Definitely, absolutely. So I mean, I'm just one voice, obviously here. So tell me a little bit about the biggest challenges you faced with this facing into the post-COVID fully online situation, because the first thing I can think of is how do you get audience to buy tickets is the first thing, right? Like you're saying, once we get them through the door, it's okay. But there, of course, there are other challenges because your artists are from all over the world. How did you reach out to them? How did you make this happen?
Sorry, Sridhar and I just keep. Wait, do you want to go first? Do you want to go first? Some of the easier things were. I don't want to say selling tickets is always hard, but this year it was no different from years past, even though it was definitely a push in a different direction. Things like I'm sure you saw pricing, the way you bought your tickets, the fact that it was online and we were charging this were shocks at first. Those were no different from years before. Coordinating the artist was not very different from years past because we're usually not in the same space as them. And the things that were easier about it that I remember not being so easy from even like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, is that at this point, this far into the career of Drive East, there was a lot of trust it felt of Navatman and okay, we've got this crazy idea, but I've been with you before, or I've seen you do stuff before. And so the artists really worked very hard to support us. They really went out of the way, above and beyond. They helped us book the theaters. They would be on multiple phone calls with us. They were the ones also pushing sales on their end as well. So I would say some of those things were actually easier. The harder things, I think,
I mean, selling tickets were a little bit of issue because with so many Zoom concerts happening all over the place, and everybody performing from India to Australia to Malaysia to everywhere, London. There's so many festivals happening, and some of them are free if you look at it. So they would say, why would I want to just buy a ticket for Drive East? But I would say it's like watching your son playing tennis and going to tennis open. That's the difference. So some of in fact, I had one friend who keeps like sending emails for every single bit, and he did mention, this is a test for me. I'm going to watch you guys. I'm critically watching you. He did, and he finally he sent a note, I think Friday night or yesterday, he sent a note saying that finally I believe in what's happening, the difference of art being presented. Sahi, I think you know who that guy is. So it was, I never answered this question. I said, talk to Udita, talk to Sahi. Not Sahi, I always put Udita there. I said, send her an email, they will take care of it. Do this, do this. Then finally he was so convinced. He said, it's amazing. That's what we put in there. But it is a challenge. There are people wanting to, um, demotivate us, demoralize us, come up with various things which they say that this is not going to happen. And there are, other festival organizers challenging us, and so many things going around. But still, like, it's our passion, it's our dedication, it's the work which goes with the team. And we are not, like, we're trying our best to do the best for what, is needed. So
I should add to that. Yeah, different difficulties, and I shouldn't romanticize it. I think that's why Sridhar kind of stepped in a bit. But it is like 10 of us working nonstop for almost 4 months straight, like 60 to 80-hour weeks. That was not a joke. But from my experience as from doing it by ourselves 10 years ago, I'll take this situation over that one any day. And always difficulties moving forward, and you just find the mountain and you tunnel through it, drive around it, or go over it, fly over it.
So let me just open up the question to a broader perspective. What do you think the challenges are? You're also artists, you're not just organizers, right? So you're looking at it from different perspectives. So as artists, I want you to put yourself in the shoe of an artist. What were the how have the challenges changed from pre-COVID to post? It's not post-COVID, a mid-COVID situation rather. And how have the challenges? How are the challenges different as organizers? And I'm not talking about technical, the technology part of it or getting tickets. What are the other things? Give us the full lowdown on this.
I mean, I should say one particular thing is, the theaters. Finding theaters was like, the so-called, like, theater management, which is artist friendly, would jump in to say that, like, you have to perform with a mask. You do Bharatanatyam with the mask, type of a thing. I mean, I'm just, it's just a metaphor. But things like that, like theater management or getting things done would be delayed because of social distancing or, COVID situation. These are all these mundane things, as Saki said, either go around it or be very proactive to know what can be done so that we tell them immediately. In fact, for La Mama shooting, we had the entire PPEs and, precautionary measures, and we created a complete safe chart for how to have that whole 3-day at La Mama. And that really stunned the other workers in La Mama. They said, oh, even our management is not done. You guys have gone so detailed. So, this is the difference, like, where we saw new venues where we had to be more creative as artists. We had to be more creative and do stuff. So, nice.
And building on that, part of that was like, I think people assume that just because we're Indian, that maybe we weren't being as protective or safe or this, that, or the other thing. But safety was the number one thing in our head. And I'm sure you saw the performers are unmasked. They're unmasked for that 1 hour. And for troops like Navatman dance, we were masked through practice until 3 days before the show. Everybody has their quarantine bubbles right now, but we went and said for the 2 weeks up till that point, and then those 3 days, we saw nobody else. Like we were so careful about how we managed that together. And I think every artist was as well. And the theaters, especially like the staff that we worked with, we wanted everyone to walk in feeling good about this moment in time. So that's how we kind of made that happen. But there are definitely assumptions that just because we're brown, we must not be taking things seriously, or that just because, we are artists or just trying to push something forward, that we must be doing it at the risk of everybody else.
The temperature checked everybody, like bing, ping, ping. That was exciting.
Nice. So we have, we do have a question from Brinda. I'm going to read it out. New practices have had to be developed since COVID. What changes will you keep and which ones will you discard once we're back to sharing physical space? What about organizational shifts?
I'm discarding nothing. I love all of it. I'm having a blast. And yeah, it poses some challenges, but I don't know. I would love to continue to keep Drive East live and also
And yeah,
do
that's
this.
what we were just discussing yesterday, how to, like open it up for live for around the globe, and then have a presence, a VIP presence at the theater, create that sort of an extra royalty there. So a royal feeling.
And I think also a little bit like the stuff that we've developed, starting to share it with as many people who need it as we can, so that artists can also charge for their concerts or have an opportunity to use the materials we've invested into sort of share in a different way themselves, whatever that might be. So like the platform that you've seen, it has access through Zoom links, it has access through, you can do YouTube pre-recorded things, you can put in a broadcast program. So we've already discussed with APE Tech about how we're going to make that available moving forward. So it's been an opportunity for us to think differently, and I think we've in particular embraced that.
Of course, Brinda can't keep her mouth shut. She has a follow-up question. Any interesting findings as a staff and how you operate?
What's the question again? Sorry.
Thank you, Brinda. Thank you. Please keep the questions coming, though. Any interesting findings as a staff and about how you operate?
I love our team. I would say that I don't know any other. You guys have to also pipe in. I have very little experience. I have like one internship with AT&T like 12 years ago, but I feel like the operation of the team is sort of key in terms of the culture of what we do. And that's something we've been developing for a very long time. But gosh, when you have people who are like at 3 a.m. not upset that they're fixing flyers or chatting with you online or telling you how excited they are to see the concert and providing feedback on the spot, and nobody's upset that we've done something wrong and instead are looking for ways to fix it, it's a beautiful thing. It makes you want to keep working and be inspired. So
and also the philosophy is it's not about it's a team. Like, we talk to them, we brainstorm with them, we take their suggestions, we give suggestions, and it's such a beautiful thing. Which, like, when you go there, you see that entire energy of wanting to make something successful and special. That's what it is.
I think the biggest learning for me this year has been, there are moments where me and Sridhar are the ones who say, there's nothing to be scared of here. We can do this crazy thing together. But then 95% of the time, I think mine and Sridhar's jobs is to step back, listen to what everybody on the staff is telling us, and then implement it accordingly, like gather their opinions and ideas and put it together. But only 5% of the time are we those people who are like, no, let's charge $50. Let's do this. We're okay. We can do it. But bulk is, I think that's the newest thing, I think, for this year's.
And the discussion would be, the one would say, oh my God, $50, it's too much. Don't you think it's too much? What do you think? But then there's a dialogue happening. Why $50? Why $20? And this dialogue, you come to a consensus that it's about, again, dignity and presenting something special. So charge this VIP charge. So, I mean, people should know that it's like, again, Indian art is not just, basement kacheris, and we're past all those ages.
I love basement kacheris.
I mean, that bitech boxes are different, but I'm talking about how if it's, anyway, let's not go into that discussion about basement kacheris and stuff.
There is also the elephant in the room, right? That Drive East does have that goodwill. It's not like it could be an overnight organization that could have come up and started charging for tickets that are unconventional. It's because through these years you have provided the kind of service that you have, and it's because people trust in that they're able to buy those tickets. So it's not for nothing. It's not like you suddenly came up with this idea of charging $50 a ticket and saying, "Hey, go and watch this." It's because people have that sense of that goodwill that you have developed over the years.
We were that organization 10 years ago, so I don't want to discourage anyone from saying
Oh
you have
no,
to have goodwill.
absolutely not. No, absolutely not. You're right. You're right about that. You cannot discourage organizations, but also this kind of transition, right? In this COVID moment, requires some sort of prior groundwork that has been done, because it's not easy to just. It's not easy to say, "Oh, I'm going to go online and I'm going to charge $50 a pop and be successful at it." So there are, I'm not saying that people who are going to come new are not going to be able to organize that, but I'm just saying that you have crossed the first few steps, first few hurdles in that process.
It's also like, we believe in the product which we are offering. We have that sort of a conscious, what do you call it, like the conscious clarity that our product is the best, and it's going to be, bester and bester. I would say that. So,
And at this point, when you speak about goodwill, it felt like I think Brinda brought this up yesterday, so I just kind of want to loop back to it. She said something about what is our responsibility in the arts. And to me and Sridhar, doing this was our responsibility as one of the organizations who has been here for this long, running programs. Can we do something that helps other people feel like they can do it also, or that shows that maybe we don't have to live in this cycle that we've been living in as artists and producers and curators?
We have more questions coming in. This is a multi-part question, so you can feel free to answer it in whatever order you want. What are artists and organizers doing right? What are they doing wrong? So let's take it one at a time in this situation.
I think lots of things. I'm of the personal opinion that lots of opinions are important for a functional society. So I think everything that is going on that comes from a genuine place is right. When we are protesting and saying that we need, unemployment benefits moving forward because, Broadway brings in 60 billion, something ridiculous. Like the entertainment industry brings in so much per year, and you cut it out. If there's ever a time for the government to step in, now is it. And while Drive East is not furthering that message necessarily, it doesn't mean that that message shouldn't be there. The lives on Instagram and Facebook are all learning experiences, right? So whatever that might mean, maybe it leads us to this next step of thinking, okay, like there's a switch in what we have to do, or maybe you're finding a lot of success there. I don't know. I'm not too plugged into social media, so I don't know what's going on. But I think all of it is important and good so long as we're progressing. If we get stuck, then it's not of value. That's really the thing.
yeah, one is we are progressing, and the second part, what's right and what's wrong doesn't come here, because it's a learning curve for everybody at a particular time, and each one is exploring what's the best. But as long as there's dignity in what is being presented, and as long as there is sort of uh, it's an ocean, and as long as everybody has got that sort of responsibility and freedom to present the right thing, yes, that's what it should be. But yesterday, Sahi and I had a very interesting conversation I think yesterday evening or sometime, about why is that the whole bracket of this arts organization or non-profit is stuck at a point where we are always sponsor driven, or like uh, uh, waiting for somebody to give us the funding, and there's always a sort of a strings attached to it. So what are we going to do about this? And that really, like cracked up my brain, and I've been thinking so hard, and I'm going through so much of thing which we were dialoguing yesterday, and I'm sure Sahi's also like dived into the Google or wherever she does, which she normally does, is working on in super speed on those things. And I'm positive, 100% positive, that we will come up with a fantastic solution, which will be a sort of a floodgate opener for all organizations and nonprofits. Because that's the team and that's we. We are always not for the self, it's for the community, for the arts, and for the politics of arts, politics. Again, let's not go into it today. So, all those things, we have to really look into all those factors.
So, do you believe that we are undercutting each other because we see a lot of concerts now online, and with this situation, we are able to see even top dancers performing online, free interviews and workshops and all of that stuff. There are organizations. There seems to be a lot of competition. So do you believe that? And of course, the fear is that artists already have trouble getting paid for their work, and if we ask them to offer things for free, I know that's not the model of Drive East or Navatman, but if that's what is happening out in the outside world, how do you think this is going to be a sustainable model? It's obviously not, but where do you think this model is going?
I think anyone who's undercutting someone else has too much time on their hands. Why do you care what someone else is doing? Firstly. Secondly, yes, if as a group we're constantly offering free performances, it does have impact. There's no way it doesn't. But that just to me indicates that we don't have a better way forward. So if that's what's happening, if we're all grabbing onto these straws, we need a different solution or set of solutions to reach out to for the problem. It's not by saying, you stop what you're doing, we have to stop everything. It's about providing access in a different way, I think. To me, any kind of trend, behavioral human trend, is really because there are no other options. You don't see them for yourself moving forward. Also, I think our audiences are smart. I think we limit ourselves too much by believing our audiences are not going to understand what they're seeing is of a particular value separate from something else that's going on.
Do you think one of the things that I have been noticing is there is always a capitalism model at work, right? I mean, wherever we see, even in the Indian arts, because it's people who already have visibility are the ones that are going to get more visibility, more opportunities to perform. And do you see that model, that pattern perpetuating in this era as well? Or do you see, are we seeing are we hearing newer voices? Are we seeing newer thoughts and faces?
That's
Go
ahead.
I think Drive East is, what we are doing here is, not just, it's such a mix of artists and presentation of young artists or like established artists, legendary artists, upcoming artists. We put everybody together, and that is one of a model where we give opportunity. And interestingly, yesterday, again, we had the discussion that one Murdangam player was being constantly here. I said, next time, we need another person. So it's about that, like how you bring in new artists. So going about, like, the earlier question where you mentioned about, undercutting or whatever, as long as of course, leave everybody doing what they have to do. Also, if you're complementing something for the growth, if you have this larger picture in mind, and if you have the arts or what we're doing in mind, then you complement each other to do something nice, not undercut somebody or backstab somebody or talk behind somebody. That's become a common factor. I don't know about whether it's a human thing or it's a Desi thing or it's a dancer thing or it's an artist. I don't know about that. Let me not go into it. But, this sort of undercutting, backstabbing, pushing down, pulling down, talking nonsense happens. Some of the sponsors offer big stuff And the minute the production is over, they just disappear. And I had this major fall in 2008 because of that. And a good part of that was where I met Saki. So this is what the whole thing was. But I'm telling you, so organizations should complement each other, should have a understanding of what we're doing. We are full-time working into this arts. And how many organization heads are working full-time into arts? How many if you're getting bigger grants, you're working with a bigger organization, share it with smaller organizations. You should hold hands for younger organizations to grow. And that's how you spread. And I think, Saki, correct me if I'm wrong, we have that philosophy with us. We want the next generation to come in. We want the next group to follow us. At some point, I was so touched when Saki said, like, in 10 years, they should be like people, our Navatman philosophy should be all over the country. We should do this. That's exciting. How many artists want to give up their seat and allow their students or others to come and sit there? How many of us are passing on this torch to our next generation? We don't. We hold it till we are 80, 90, and then we say, I did this, I did this, I did this, and the art form is dead over there by the time. How many people have walked away from this?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there is, I mean, I don't know if it is because it's the art field, but there is a lot of nepotism. There is a lot of things to be said about connections and networking and all of that, which obviously, which actually brings me to my next question of this hegemony that we see, unfortunately, in the Indian classical art. So we do have a question about that. How do we take responsibility for the systematic oppression, even within the classical dance and music community?
I have so much to say on all of these things. Am I allowed
Long discussion.
We've been talking about this all week, actually. And I kind of also want to go back a little bit, because I also think Drive East can't be the only organization that is trying to bring up other spaces. And the reason, I think, there are two reasons, which also I think talk to this question as well. There are two much larger reasons that this happens. One is, I think the Indian arts economy in the US, and I've said this a couple of times now, and I'm gonna say it till someone hears me, the Indian arts economy in the US is dying. So our parents' generation are still doing a couple concert tours here and there, but other than Drive East and maybe like a couple other bigger arts organizations established in the last 20 to 30 years, nobody's paying for artists to come overseas. And even the Drive East economy is based on economy, like supply and demand. We pay artists 50% of what comes through the box office proceeds, which is not the same as the $3,000 to $5,000 that an artist gets from a membership organization when they come on tour. The problem is ours is based on supply and demand. Theirs is based on and want to preserve. We no longer have that this generation of ours does not have a desperate need to preserve art or touring arts economy for their children. They want to come learn culture in 1 hour once a week through dance and music, and that is sufficient. So without the demand that our parents created, that is gone. It is dead. If people are not buying individual tickets all around the country for you, and we're solely supported by this idea of these membership organizations, and that is how artists make money back in India, a good number of them collapse. It's impending doom and collapse for this space. It does mean that different models now have to pop up, but we do simultaneously have to come into context with this issue that is happening at the same time. And when we talk to those organizers everywhere, they're telling us, they're like, membership is down. We are also running out of steam of organizing these things constantly, so on and so forth. So if you're looking at it from that framework, what you've talked about here is that now people are only bringing in the big names who will bring in the big ticket holders. So you create a vicious cycle because the economy is sort of plummeting. You only want certain people who can sell the tickets to come up, which means it leads to the nepotism, which means it leads to the people with connections, which means it leads to people who already have their following set. You no longer want to take the risk on the younger artists. The second is, I think a lot of our protectionist behaviors are left over from colonialism. For 50 years or 200 years while the British were ruling us, we were told our arts were not good enough. We were told we were not good enough. We were told any number of things. If we don't think that for 250 years and maybe more, that somebody telling us that these spaces are not of value does not inculcate into generations forward, I think we should really rethink some of that stuff. Even the aesthetics of Bharatanatyam now, I'll talk about Bharatanatyam because this is the one I've researched the most, are highly influenced by Western aesthetics. And Sridhar and I were just talking the other day, and I was like, you know, how can we get the Devadasis in India to talk to us? And he says, they don't talk to you because they say what we do now is not Bharatanatyam. And they're so upset with how we have appropriated, taken the form and rejected them and the form and everything that they carry, that they won't even talk to us anymore.
No, they don't trust us anymore. There is no reason for them to. There's no reason for them to trust us. Yes.
But then, what is our dance? What is our dance without them? And I can't. I'm in a place. I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about this, but I'm in a place where how do I, as an artist, who lives this every day, who finds that in my bones that somewhere there's something that they've given to this world is within me, because I just love it that much. How do I reconcile these two things? I don't know. I'm at a loss. And this is something Sridhar and I have been talking about for some time. But those preservationist spaces, when you don't have enough resources, we think it's us. I say it's something much bigger. And even things like how we look at each other and we say, this aesthetic should be this way or that way. Do we not think that that's some Western influence on us, telling us and dictating some of our spaces? I would say it's definitely there. Not to say that you can't make your own opinions, but you have to unpeel some of this as well.
Right. I think that is actually a very good point. There are some very good points that you made, Sahib, because and let's not forget that it's not just that 200 years of colonialism, but also thousands of years of social hierarchy as well that have led to the practices that are being inculcated even now, which also brings us to the next question and kind of touches upon what I wanted to ask about as well. Even when you look at, I know Drive East has tried to be as inclusive as possible, and we want to support artists who are not, art forms that are not generally seen popularly outside of India and all of that. Which is all a great initiative. But then when you think about the audiences, right? Like I was in a lot of post-concert discussions. I was in a post-concert discussion about yesterday. And when you see the background, the demographic of people who logged in to ask questions from a Carnatic musician, they all come from a certain ethnic group or a certain caste group. So, which brings us to Brinda's question about, how do you operate differently as an organizer in terms of systemic oppression, offering anti-racist, anti-casteist, and social justice models in our schools to the next generation? Where are we going with this, and what can Navatman do to try and break that stereotype?
Change starts with you. So that's where we have started, if you see who we work with, how we include everybody, how we talk about, and wherever there's a situation which needs to be addressed, we do address. We are conscious of what's happening there. And we do, initially, the first discussion is among us. Why is this happening? What are the things we can do? The staff, the team, the board, Sahi and I. So we have all these discussions constantly. And we've been talking about this. How do we take it to out there? And how are we going to do it? We're working on plans. Sahi, you can add if,
I think
some of the talks we've had, I don't know.
So it's a big question, right?
Yeah, huge.
And it's not
Humongous.
something that's new for Navatman. We've been talking about it for years, although maybe using like caste more than race. But I'm finding that it is not going to be solved in this generation. I think it is, and the thing to accept is you do absolutely as much as you can, and then you help the next you empower the next generation, or you empower everyone around you to also do as absolutely as much as they can. So for instance, small things that we're going to have to deal with as we move forward. And here's the thing: access, anti-casteist and anti-racist behavior is not just value driven or just throwing the dance form in a low income area, or throwing the dance form in spaces that don't get to see it and saying that's the work, I've done it. Things that we're contending with that you wouldn't even think that are part of the problem are things like, what if you don't have a credit card? How do you pay for something that you might have the money to pay for something that we have, but if you don't have a credit card because the cultural space that you're in doesn't like make that an easy thing to get to, then you can't access our stuff. What if you don't Western application forms? Drive East is a Western application form, just like anything else. It's really easy to understand if you're here in the US, but if you're a folk artist in India, you're gonna look at that application form and be like, huh, why? I don't care. Without also linking to the fact that we can also provide our privilege and access and opportunities to that space. So it's our job actually to go in there and show them that we can create or find these spaces with them. It has to be about us going deeper into that. There are things like what I'm thinking about, even things like the Drive East, like the 4K, you have to have a good internet connection to see Drive East. So again, even if you have money, what if you're in a different part of the world that's remote? So access is limited by that. So these spaces, I think you can even attack your smaller spaces first and work within what you are empowered to change and work and change from there. I think there are spaces we're all very empowered in, and we just have to think about things a little differently, and we can start to peel these back in smaller steps versus these I think the initial thought process is, oh yeah, let me just perform for free and now everyone has access. No, that's a big misnomer of it. And this is sorry, Sridhar. This is from Navatman trying to do this work for the last 12 years. We've tried to go into low-income spaces. We've tried to offer free classes. It is not as simple as being like, hi, I'm in the community now. Like, welcome. I have now done it. So that would be my first thought. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
Yeah, and also if you're taking this art form, say for example, Bharatanatyam or Carnatic music, to to people who don't have access, or the next generation who are not exposed to it, or in a different culture, in a different background, in a different environment, you should be strong to understand where you are. Don't be half-baked and go there and talk about, Bharatanatyam or Indian classical form. But know what it is. Go through the essence of what you know. Go beyond. Do research. Get the complete strongness, understanding of what this, the art form is about. Then you're ready to share with others. If you're not strong and you're taking this half-baked thing to say that Bharatanatyam is about painted faces and decked up, that's not what it is. No. There is so much of essence into it. Understand the whole thing about a classical form. And then you go out and share it with people. Then you're ready to answer any question they shoot.
No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that draws upon the parallels of, Kathakali artists. Typically, unfortunately, when you see in Kathakali, which is predominantly practiced by men, I'm probably one of the very few female practitioners of this art form. There is a lot of depression among the practitioners. There's a lot of alcoholism among the practitioners because of lack of respect for the arts that they have done, and the lack of I won't say lack of opportunities, but there is a hierarchy there as to who gets to play what kind of role. And it doesn't mean that even if you play the pacha role, the role of the hero, that you would be employed throughout the year. It's a very seasonal art form. And the caste hierarchy in that art form has been brutal to the practitioners of that art, right? So that comes back to again this question of who are we teaching? Because I know Navatman is engaged in teaching. So what is our next generation? Who is your target audience? Who is your target? Who are your target performers? What are we? Whom are we trying to train for the next generation? Whom are we trying to not just train but to think for the next generation?
If you look at it like, in Navatman, of course, who are we training? Who's got the passion? Who's got the art form? 20 people come in, 5 are passionate about it. There are various programs which are created, exploratory, beginners class, see whether they are really conscious about what they're doing, and then going to the next. And, it's so much of thought process has gone into it to how we are expanding that and giving the education to people. And there is always a sort of a talk session where, a school is created in a format which the education is imparted in the right way and to the right set of people. Again, like, who catches, and if they're passionate and they have more passion in learning more, yes, we pump in with more arts, we pump in with more questions, we have lots of dialogue sessions, they can ask questions, and that's how we go. And when we don't know something, we do refer back and give the right, answers to those questions. And going back to this Kathakali artists, one of the reasons why they're so frustrated and depressed is because they have not passed the baton to others. They held on to themselves. They said, I do this character. I'm 8 years old. Of course, I've experienced, I can do it, but I have never trained 10 other people who can do in my absence. They immortalize themselves by saying that they are the best and nobody can replace them. And that is where all that depression comes in, because you're not, what's the correct word? Like, you're not blossoming the art form, but you're just talking about yourself. And that's the issue of many artists of current days. I mean, at least the past generation and current day also, that we become, we iconize ourselves, and then we don't really pass the baton to others. And like bring in the others into your circle to make them understand what it is about. This balance has not been happening at all. There's always this imbalance of not the art form, it's about the person, the artist, the role. That's what it is.
I do think also that depression is also a measure of tokenism, right? Like, oh, I'm going to come and reel you out onto stage when I want to show off the culture of India. And then that's what happens to Indian classical artists, right? We're here for showing how fantastic the culture of India is. And then everything else is, like, we don't want to give you the money, we don't want to give you the resources, we don't want to give you credit, we don't want to, all the other stuff that encompasses such a role, right? Like, here are some living cultural icons. I expect to pass on all of my history, my thought process, my everything to somebody else, but I don't want to give you any real value for it. Including whether that's dignified labor, whether that's monetary value, whether that's space, time, energy, resources. And it's very strange to me because the valuation of what we do is so high. The like magnitude of what we do is always thought of with such intensity, but everything else that usually comes with that level of respect is not there. In things like Sridhar, again, just thinking about the fact that he said Uday Shankar was when he passed away on the streets begging for, you have to tell the story. I don't know enough about it.
Yeah, if you look at so many artists, Uday Shankar, has any dancer done in research on how he passed away? Muthuswami, the great artist from a dance teacher from Chennai, died in the. What is happening to the artists? What has the art form done to them? Who has he created? Has the art given back to these masters and legends? What's going on? And what are these great organizations, name it in India or government institutions or other arts organizations, preserving these great masters? Did we do anything? No. Did we go to them like Sahi said, I want to meet the Devadasis and understand more? Did any artist think of them? No. They were these legends who came out of these artists. What's happening to them? So, we didn't take from them, they didn't want to share it, and the art is dying at the end. And even ICCR, I'm quoting this again, that when a foreign institution is going to ask for money, immediately a check is given to them. When we, as an organization who made statements, as you said, over 12 years, for getting one ticket sponsored for our dancer, we had to have sent 100 emails, and finally they said, we don't have budget for that.
Oh, yes. This is a story. I mean, this
For
is
a ticket for $800, they don't have budget for that. Whereas they're spending tons of money over there. And they have these directors and commissioners who don't know anything about arts. So what is this ICCR, Indian Council for Cultural Relations? What is Sangeet Natak Academy doing? What is, it's about putting the same old people there. I mean, I respect and regard these great guys who have done so much of work into great gurus and teachers and legendary artists who have done greatness in preserving the art. No, they just put it into shelf and locked it up, holding the keys. That's not what it is. They should open up the box and allow it to be shared by every young, thirsty artist around the world who want to know so much about this art form.
Absolutely.
Allow people to write, allow people to get involved. Why is it become like sort of a fancy elitist thing to be like, there's a dance conference, it's an elitist get together? No. Why aren't they talking about passionate things? Why are they not having that as an open forum where people can be transparent and talk about the issues? It's a long discussion which we can keep on, but I'm very fortunate because I worked with Chandradeka and many other who really scrub my brains. And like when I go back and visit that area and I come back again, I'm fortunate cycle that I have people like Sahi with me and the team. It's so many of them are there in this world who are genuinely and seriously and passionately want to do things. And I think we have to recognize that and share it with them.
Absolutely. Well said. Absolutely well said. This is actually a great segue because we're going to talk more about politics and the arts. We have three amazing panelists, Dr. Sandra Chatterjee, Dr. Ahalya Satgunaratnam, and Dr. Vidya Natarajan, who are going to be joining us in half hour. Right here on YouTube, on Facebook Live. So please stay tuned, visit our page. This is the last day of our festival. We have the great Rama Vaidyanathan and her protege daughter, Dakshina Vaidyanathan, performing for us as well. And we have Kamal Sabriji performing. Stay back and catch their performances. If you haven't gotten your tickets, you can head to driveys.org. Get the few tickets that are left for these concerts. So thank you all for your support. And this has been wonderful, Sahi and Sridhar. Thank you for taking the time. I know you are tired. You are in California, probably jet lagged a little bit from doing all of the hard work. So thank you so much for joining us. And we'll continue.